In this practice, we'll be working on getting more circulation to our legs, all the way from the toes to the calves, to the knees, to the hips. We'll be doing 5 different things to increase the circulation in our legs, and it's especially valuable for yoga practice, especially in our standing poses. We'll begin by standing off the mat. I like to step off the mat because the cushion of the mat sometimes takes you a little out of balance. With your feet parallel, lift your toes up, spread your toes, release your toes down, lift your heels up, take your heels down, lift your spread toes up, take them down, lift your heels up, really accessible, take your heels down, and lift and spread your toes and take them down. Lift your heels up, and now just step a little bit on tiptoes. Take your heels down. Your toes and the whole front of your foot is lifted, and you're just stepping on your heels. Come to take the toes down, lift your heels up, and tiptoe your way as you lift your heels high. There's a way to work the arches and strengthen the ankles. Take your heels down, lift your toes up. We used to have races as kids on our heels this way. You really engage the muscles around the knees and strengthen the ankles this way. Take your toes down, lift your heels up, and same thing. You're just kind of stepping in place on tiptoes. Take your heels down, lift your toes up, stepping in place on your heels. Release your feet. Come to Tadasana at the front of your mat. Notice how engaged your toes feel. Your ankles might feel a little bit more flexible and certainly more supported. So that was number 1. We raised the toes and then we raised the heels. Number 2, take your arms up, spread your fingers, and bend your knees. Come to this chair pose, Utkatasana. Now straighten your legs. Now let's see if we can make more of a commitment for that. In Tadasana, take your arms up. Hands can be nice and wide apart. Bend your knees and just draw down. Going into Utkatasana. Inhale, rise up. We'll do this a few more times. Bend your knees. Draw your pelvis back. And rise up. Now look down at your knees and notice as you bend your knees, the knees go way forward. It's not so great for the knees, so take the knees back and draw down, maybe deeper, and rise up. You just keep this nice, easeful flow of the breath as you are careful with your knees to not take them forward, and rise up. And maybe you can go deeper with each repetition. We're not holding the pose like we often do. We're just trying to get just a little bit more fluidity in the joints, a little bit more lubrication as you draw down and lift up. And again, you draw down. These are very shallow versions of our squat position. And draw down. Lift up, release your hands. I also like doing that squatting action at the wall or chair pose, Utkatasana at the wall, because it allows me to keep my knees aligned and strengthen those muscles. And one way to do that is just to take a ball behind you. It can be one of those really big exercise balls. I don't have one of those, so I'm just using a smaller one. With your feet forward, Or you can just slide down the wall. You don't really need the ball, but it just makes it go somewhat easier. You can draw yourself into the pose just a little bit deeper as you press back into the wall and do the repetitions again. As you root down through the feet, you can go slightly deeper. This certainly strengthens the muscles for the knees, and this allows you to go deeper into your squat pose. So we just continue this nice easeful action, nice easeful breath. If your arms get tired, you can just release them to the side. But you can get a nice strength in the muscles of the upper arms by spreading the fingers and slowly, slowly coming into the pose. And out. If you don't have a wall nearby that you can slide down, you can just continue to do these movements towards squats on your mat. Let's come back to the mat, those of us that were at the wall, and come to a kneeling position. In the kneeling position, tuck your toes under, just draw your pelvis back. Keep your hands on the mat for now. For some of us, this position is not so comfortable, so we want to keep our hands to the mat, but maybe just take a little bit more weight toward the knees. If your knees aren't happy with this, you can improvise. Maybe put towels or washcloths right behind the knees to give your knees a little bit more space. Some of us can take our hands completely off the mat to allow for just a little bit more work on the ankle area and to work the toes. Release your hands. That version of Vadrasana leads us to a nice stretch to the ankles to lead us into a calf massage. Take the right leg, just cradle it in the belly of the left calf muscle, and just move your right leg side to side. So it's called a cross fiber that you're doing, and you're putting a little bit of weight, pressing the shin bone into the belly of the calf muscle to get a nice massage. And now you can just maybe draw your pelvis back a little bit more, and you'll feel just a slightly different engagement as you move your shin side to side. It doesn't feel that great. For some of us, your knees will allow you to come all the way back, and you can just kind of rest yourself with the shin bone right in the belly of the calf muscle. But for most of us, the knees are not so happy with that. So just this cross fiber that you do. The right shin is cross fibering the belly of the calf muscle on the left leg. You can release now. Let's come back to the pose we were in. With our toes tucked under, draw your pelvis back. Take a little bit more weight on your feet by walking your hands back toward your knees. Again, for some of us, we can walk our hands back and actually free our hands from the mat. But you know where you're at, so just be happy there and get this nice fullness here of the stretch of the toes and the ankles. Take your hands back to the mat. Come to all fours position. Take your left shin bone just to the right calf muscle And do that same action, just move side to side. So you're just massaging the right calf muscle with your left shin bone. And as you move your pelvis back some, you can get just a little bit more pressure. Some of us, again, can come back and actually sit back with the left shin right on top of the right calf muscle. But again, it doesn't feel so good, but it's really great to get a little bit more freedom and elongation in the calf muscle. Some people actually get this thing called claudication, and it's a burning, it's a tightness in this calf muscle. A lot of athletes get this. So you want to be aware and do these actions to have more freedom in the calf muscles. You can release out of this pose. So we've raised the heels, lowered the heels as number one. The second one, we were in chair position and we did the shallow squats. Number three, we did this calf cross fiber action. And so for number four, we'll come to all fours position. And in all fours position, I like using the block here. So take the block in your left hand and reach your right foot out to the side. So we're working up the legs from the toes to the ankle to the knee and now the hip. If you don't have a block, no problem. You just can take the hand in line with the knee and the knees in line with the arch of the foot. So you come to your form of the pose, lift the right leg up and down, and lift it up and down, and up and down. Keep it lifted and do small circles with the leg. Now do bigger circles with the foot. Now do smaller circles, but in the opposite direction. Now do bigger circles. I know this is not so easy, so just be easeful for yourself and you can work up to it. You can release your foot down. Let's come to the opposite side. Step your left foot to the side. Reach it out. And as you line up the arch of the foot, the knee to the hand, lift your back leg up. And as you move the left leg, just lower and raise it up. Just to get a little lubrication there. Now with the foot still elevated, make small circles in one direction, your choice. Make bigger circles with the foot. And now make small circles again, but going the opposite direction. So this is our fourth action. And make bigger circles with your foot. And release. So nice when that's over. Let's come to a standing position. As you come to a standing position, step wide. Turn your right toes out. Now let's do a yoga pose we do almost every practice. Bend your knee. We've done all the work on the legs from the toes to the pelvis to make this pose just so easeful. Lift your arms up, reach your gaze out over your extended right hand. And notice now, after all the work with your legs, you feel this engagement. You also feel this freedom from the engagement where you can just drop your front thigh a little bit lower in the pose. And you can hold the pose with steadiness, with commitment, with dedication to your practice. You've prepared the legs from the toes to the pelvis, and now you find this great freedom. It allows you to come to your standing poses with so much more ease. Now come to straight legs, parallel your feet, rest your arms to your side, then interlace your fingers behind your back. Draw the heads of the arm bones back to open your chest with the feet pulling in toward one another. Bow forward and lift your interlaced fingers up just slightly so you get this nice ease about your breath, nice softness as you draw your heart toward the earth. Place your hands to your low back. Press your fingers down toward the mat to rise up. You can release your hands. Now turn your left toes out. Bend your left knee. Keep your back leg strong. Inhale, lift your arms up. Take your gaze over your left hand. Nice steadiness there. Now from the strength of the back leg, let the front thigh become a little bit more parallel to the earth. The actions in the poses that we just did just allows for this nice engagement in your legs in this pose that exhibits such courage and strength. Root down through the back leg to inhale and straighten the front leg. Release your hands, parallel your feet, interlace your fingers behind your back again, and allow for the ease of the pose where you just let your head hang and your neck muscles just find a little bit more freedom. You can now release your arms so now you have a little bit more freedom in the neck muscles. Allow a nice in-breath and out-breath to flow very easily. And slowly heel-toe your feet in so that they're hip distance apart with your knees slightly bent. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Now let's apply those shallow squats to come to a deeper squat if that's appropriate for you. If it's not, then no worries. Just make your way down to sit. Take your arms up, bend your knees, come to that shallower squatting pose. And again, if you can take yourself all the way down to the earth to land your pelvis easily, then lie on your back. Once you made it to the earth, bend your knees. Enjoy the mat for a moment here. As we go through these 5 different actions that we can do to create a little bit more circulation in the legs. So the last action that we'll do to stimulate the circulation in the legs, the 5th action, is to lift the feet up. Now, I like having a block under my pelvis, so it's like Sarvangasana, a shoulder stand. If you've got blocks by you, grab them. If you don't have blocks, no problem. You can just lift your feet straight up. Or if you've got a wall, you might want to take your legs up at the wall. So after doing the 4 other actions to get the circulation flowing in our legs, now with our feet lifted, spread your toes. Draw your toes toward your face and reach your toes toward the sky. So it's like the first action that we were doing, standing. Draw your toes toward the face. Reach your toes to the sky. See if you can get a nice spread to the toes as you do this. Draw your toes toward the face and reach your toes away. Again, see if you can just get as much action in the ankle with the toes spread. Draw your toes down and reach them away. And now just come to what feels like center of that movement. Your legs are still engaged through a nice spread of the toes. Just pause there. And as you're ready, you can slowly take yourself out of the pose by bending your knees to plant your feet down. You can lift your pelvis up off the blocks. And release your legs. And notice, after focusing on the circulation of the legs, notice how they feel. From your toes to your heels, to your ankles, to your calf muscles, your knees, your thighs, all the way to the hip joint. Let your legs experience the support of the earth. Take your attention to your breath. Soften your facial muscles. Slowly bend your knees and plant your feet. Take your arms up and over your head. Enjoy this fullness that you feel, this nice lengthening quality from the pelvis to the crown of the head and out through the fingertips. Keep that feeling of fullness as you draw over to your side. Slowly lift yourself up to come to a seated position. Let's honor the teachings of yoga. These teachings allow us to get so much strength and length and overall circulation in the legs. To the teachings, we bow. Namaste.